my head.
Wednesday. I see Restream has some kind of Valentine's music. Does it work for you, Eunice?
Yeah, sure. I'm sure there's a couple of people here who would love to have some type of Valentine's Day type of music. Well, yeah.
It sounds like something that you would expect to hear at a hotel, an Asian hotel, like when we were in Singapore or Japan. I would expect to hear the similar type of
Mhm.
sound that is there. So, welcome to our audience, right? And it snowed over here last night.
Yeah.
So, I was just outside with the kids shoveling.
Getting your exercise on. Yeah.
Yep, I was outside, shoveling. And one thing that I noticed is that going outside and doing what we were doing, it was fun for the kids, and it was work for me.
Hey.
But I gave them a reward, and since in our county, we're like, before there is ever any snow on the ground, before there's ever any snow on the ground,
Mm-hmm.
um, they love to cancel school. And in 2025, I don't believe that there has been a week yet when our kids haven't missed a day of school. There's good and there's bad to that, right? That means that they're going to be in school longer towards the end of the year, right? They're going to be in school longer towards the end of the year. But it's bad because it kind of sort of disrupts our week. So let's get started and kicked off talking about some of the things that we heard in the news. And just this morning, I saw that the consumer price index came in at 3%, right?
Mm.
Which is, not what we were hoping for with one of our businesses. One of our business is residential real estate. And as everyone knows, when it comes to residential real estate, interest rates are going to be significant. And I see that the S&P 500 is down about zero point 0.2 at this point in time. So that's not a really good thing, right? And the futures market, for the most part, has pulled back. And you may recall, Eunice, that in 2024 they were forecasting that there would be about two rate cuts in 2025.
Yeah.
So the article that I read this morning indicated, excuse me, indicated that the futures market is only forecasting one rate reduction, and they moved it back from September to December.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm believing that when it comes to residential real estate, the market isn't going to thaw as much as we had hoped. What, as a agent, what would be your recommendation to our audience and those small business owners that are in the market to purchase a home? How would you advise them in this scenario?
Well, this morning I follow the NAR research, and the the NAR chief economist actually put out a reaction to where we are with regards to the CPI, and um, one of the things that he mentioned, let me just quickly read that, is that as it relates to mortgage rates, is that this will delay any rate cuts by the Feds this year until there are clear signs that either inflation is trending towards 2% or the economy begins to face net job losses, right? And what does this mean for you in real estate, right? Progress on mortgage rates is only expected to occur when inflation is contained. So basically, for you as a consumer or as somebody who is either looking to buy or to sell real estate, all that just means for you is that we are still in that environment where, for a buyer, the interest rates are still high. And because interest rates are still high, they're not budging down by any chance. That just means that for some buyers, they may be locked out of the buying process because interest rates are high. And because interest rates are high, that may reduce what they may be able to afford or to buy. So people may decide to wait out until such a time that they're able to afford a little bit more, or they're able to get the type of home that they're looking for, with the budget that they have. From a
Hmm.
perspective, most sellers typically sell and then buy another home. So if right now you are sitting at a comfortable 2.53% mortgage rate, when you think about selling that home, that means that you're selling that low rate, and now you're going to buy a new home at about 7%, right? So some people may also decide to hold off until such a time that they believe it's more conducive for them. Having
Hmm.
said, every person's situation, of course, is going to be different. There are people who are still making transactions, transactions are still occurring. Every situation is going to be different to your needs and where you are in life and what you're looking to do and all things like that. So it's it's interesting to follow this, but I also say if you have any concerns, you're thinking about it, you're just not sure, you are better off contacting an agent. That way you can have a conversation to even look at what's there in the market and understand what's happening a little bit further than going into social media and getting different views that may not necessarily be applicable to you specifically.
No, I think everyone has to continue to be a steward on where they are getting information. And,
Hmm.
we are also small business owners, so we know that, hey, there's not enough time in the day for you to get to everything that is actually on your agenda. So you have to take your time in doing all of those things, right?
Yep.
So we also know that, but one of the things, or one takeaway that I heard from what you had explained, is that there's going to be a time where if you need to move, there has to be some level of motivation, right, in order to sell in this environment, right? But if there isn't that type of motivation that you need, right, people can actually stay there, right, as they make that decision. But if you have a new baby and you're in a one bedroom apartment right now, and then your family is growing, that just means that there's going to be an opportunity for you to buy, right? Because one of the interesting things that I would say is that I was talking with a client who had reached out to us on our motivated seller line, right? And on the
Mhm.
motivated seller line, he was telling me that one of the reasons why he was motivated to sell, he's going through a divorce, etc. But he was like, I'm afraid that if I leave this house, then I won't be able to pick up another house similar to what you had just said, right? Similar to what you had
Yeah.
just said. So, just using public information, I jumped on Zillow, and he had purchased that house in 1994 for about, I think it was 200 and, low 200, 214, 215, $216,000. And what I had tried to communicate to him was that right now his house is valued at nearly 700, nearly $800,000, right?
Hmm.
And one of the things that I noticed is, and this was on my show notes to actually speak about it, but we could actually talk about that today, is the fact that right now, Cation Schiller, they're actually saying that homes are going to appreciate by about 4% per year. So if you have a home that's appreciating at about 4% a year, if the average price of a home is about $600,000 and it's appreciating by 400%, that's a $24,000 yield on that investment, right? And
Hmm.
one of the things that I know, right, is that Case Schuler, they are always very conservative, right?
Yeah.
So when you look at that and you compare that to uh, what you would get in the savings account, right? You would have to probably be in a more a more risky asset to get that type of return, because you're definitely not going to get it in a traditional savings or checking account. So as a small business owner, and the program that we have is, we actually advise people that they should actually purchase their home as one of their first investments, because one, throughout history there have been more up years in home appreciation than down years,
Hmm.
right? And as that home has the additional equity, right, as that home grows in additional equity, it's going to have the opportunity to become a part of their wealth strategy as a whole. So I, in my, maybe I'm biased a little bit, but I really would not be in the situation that I am in if it wasn't for my ability to purchase a home when I did purchase a home. And purchasing that home was a blessing to me because it actually allowed for me to pay off all my student loans. And then once I was no longer burdened with the student loans, right? Once I was no longer burdened with the student loans, then I had the capability to go out and invest. But in Botswana, beautiful Botswana, right? They paid for you to go to the University of Cape Town. So you don't really see that as stressful. But with many of the clients that you have worked with, I think one of the things that have impacted their credit scores or their ability to afford a home was the fact that they also had student loans to pay.
Yeah, and just thinking about that as you were talking about that, what came to my mind was the one of the programs that I have done, and one of these programs, there's a program that I had to enroll in and get certified in, which was Debt Free Life. And one of the things that this program really does is to try and help people pay off debt and sell them that you can live a debt free life. And you can live a debt free life using a whole life insurance that's going to be structured to accelerate how you pay your debt so that you can pay off your debt and be in a position where you are able to make investments because you freed up money by paying off of your debt. And this program works very well for people. Typically, when we look at it, we want someone to have a couple of uh, major, what we call major debt, whether it's a mortgage or it's a student debt, and then some couple of smaller credit cards or store credits and things of that sort. But at the core of debt-free life, what it really does is it takes all these debts and create some type of an amortization schedule to say if you are able to pay off all these debts by moving around funds or using some of um, what we call uh, what's the term? I just thought of the term, but it's money that you would otherwise have paid onto other things. And if we collect all these monies and help you to structure how you can pay off of your debt through buying a whole life insurance and using the funds in your cash value to pay off debt in a quicker way. From that, what we have seen from that program is that it is possible to pay off your student debt in less amount of time versus what the numbers may look like now, or you could even pay off your mortgage in less amount of time versus the amortization schedule for your home that you may have now. So just when you were talking about this, of course, debt as well as investment, that program just came to mind, and where I was saying, a lot of times we do have entrepreneurs or small business owners who, on top of them funding their businesses using their personal funds, they also have student debt. They also have mortgages. They also have other expenses. And it can become overwhelming when you say, will I ever be able to pay off these things? Will I ever be debt free? Will I ever be able to manage making all these payments? So there are options, there are solutions out there. You just need to connect with the right person to help you out. I think a lot of times the biggest challenge is that we don't usually talk about finances. Most people prefer not to, couples will have that smaller conversations about their finances, but a lot of times people don't want to involve others into their finances. However, I've learned that for you to be able to grow, you have to experience that discomfort. You have to be in a position where you talk to others who have done it or who have succeeded to say, hey, how did you do it? How were you able to get out of this? Because a lot of times, as soon as you have the knowledge, I promise you, your world just opens up, and then you start now going out there and looking for these ways that you can save money, that you can invest, that you can pay off things, that you can, have access to lines of credit, have access to funds, and be in a position where you're able to do the things that you want to do.
No, and I agree with you. Is that I believe one of the reasons why life used to be so simple when we were in our youth is because we had ultimate control of our time,
Mhm.
right? And
I
then
agree.
once you graduate college, right, you lose control of that time, right?
Mhm.
Now you have to be dedicating yourself to going to work, and in going to work, what that means for you is that that's 40 hours out of your awake time for the week where you have to be dedicated to that thing,
Yeah.
right? So what we talk about in our program is building up that layered cake, right? Time freedom, well, financial freedom leads to time freedom.
Hmm.
Time freedom leads to location freedom, right? Because if you don't have to be dedicated to spending 40 hours, 35 or 40 hours dedicated to a job and being in one location, that means that you could be anywhere in the world. And I'm reading a book called Flow, And one of the things that it talks about in flow is that happiness is related or tied to optimal experiences, right? But, it's a very heavy book. I'm reading it very slowly. I usually try to flip through pages, but this one is one of those books that I believe that I'm going to get so much value out of it that I'm purposely reading it very, very slow. But I'm on the chapter right now where it talks about consciousness, right? And what you had just mentioned was you have to be conscious of these things, right? To secure your freedom, and then you can take action. If you're
Mhm.
unconscious to these systems, to these goals, etc., you will not be able to take advantage of them. And although I try to build out my expertise in this space, one of the things that I'm learning over and over and over again is the fact that the more someone told me this when I graduated college nearly 24 years ago, the, the more you learn, the less you know, right? And my mindset says that I'm happy to know less because I am actually learning every single day. So we say that to say that, hey, you don't need to know it all, right? You need to humble yourself, humble your ego, humble your id in order to be able to ask for help when you need it. And that's one of the reasons why we started Value Investment Partners, because we attended the Value Hound Academy. And one thing that I believe his name was Chuck said is that there is always value. You just have to be cognizant of how you find that value. The
Yeah.
last thing that I have on the agenda for today is, I want to give a shout out to all of our small businesses, right? When you think about the jobs report that came out last week, right? Small businesses created the most number of jobs, but I don't believe that small businesses are getting the credit for helping the economy to grow as it should. So last week the job number came in at 143,000, right? That's a little bit off from where the forecast was. The forecast was calling for 170,000 jobs to be created, right? However, there was some upside on the revisions for December and November of last year, which resulted in which resulted in the unemployment number ticking down from 4.1 to 4%, right?
Hmm.
But of that 143,000 jobs that was created, guess what? The largest number of new jobs, 92,000, right, came from medium-sized businesses, which is actually our avatar, right? And knowing that small and medium-sized businesses are driving the economy, we know from being business owners that those small businesses, they have a need for financing, right? But every day, I was on a call with a client just yesterday, right, who was in business, telling me that they're doing about $300,000 or $400,000 in revenue a year, but one of the things that was holding him back from growing was because he was using his personal social security number for all of his financing needs, right? And I told him, bro,
Yeah.
I know I can help you with that. Why do I know I can help with that? Because these are the exact same things that we've done personal. So this is not just some theory that we read inside of a book. This is
Hmm.
personal experience on how to build out your credit, right? Using your EIN number, right? So that you could have access to business funding as a whole.
Yeah.
right? So shout out to all of our small business owners. We believe that as a small business owner, you have to be brave, right? It's daring to go out there and know that you become the CFO, the CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, Chief Sales Officer. You have to be responsible for title, strategy, right? For product. There's so many things. I had a very interesting call with a
Mhm.
gentleman yesterday that was, breaking down. He actually focuses on businesses. Like he was telling me a story about a business that he was working with their CEO about about this is $1 billion company, right? But that $1 billion company actually needed to transform itself because it noticed that its revenue growth was stunted, right?
Mm.
So the CEO was looking for a coach to advise him on how is it that I'm going to be able to pivot my business and actually allow my business to grow even more, you know? And I was asking myself, where do CEOs go to get coached, right? Because you've built $1 billion business. That is nothing to sneeze at. That's a great accomplishment. But one of the things that you have, if you are a growth oriented person and you have a growth mindset, is that if you do 1 billion, you got to do 1.5 next year. You got to do maybe 2 next year. So where does the CEO go to get advice?
Mm.
Interesting question.
It is. It is. I think everybody needs some type of whether you call it a mentor, whether you call it coach, whether you call it, somebody who helps you think outside the box, whether it's an accountability partner. I believe we all need that, especially business owners, because it's easy to be comfortable with what you have already built or what you have going, especially when money is coming in. A lot of business owners, when things are going right and they're going well, it's very easy to just stay there, be comfortable. But you always have to be growing. You always have to be thinking a couple of steps ahead, right? Because nobody knows what's going to happen tomorrow. So your business today may be successful and making money, but your product might be obsolete in a couple of months. So if you are not growing and looking for guidance and accountability from others outside of what you do or outside of your own organization to help you think outside the box, to help you enter into new territories, you may run the risk of losing a portion or most of what you've already built because you were content. So I believe, like you're saying, even with CEOs, you may be doing so well, have this large company that's doing well, that has the revenues, but you still always need to have somebody that you go to say, hey, this is where we are. And that person for you may be that challenging voice to you that will say, okay, so this is where you are. How do you now double to get to a different phase? How do you start eliminating things that are not working out? How do you continue to build onto the things that are doing great for you and are the main reason why you're getting all the money that you're getting, right? So we all need that. And I say that because, yes, most small business owners wear so many hats. They are the CEOs, they are the chief marketing person, they are the accountants, they are everything in the business, right? So I want business owners to realize and to know that when you run your business, you cannot do that in isolation, or you cannot do that with the mentality that, oh, this is who I am, this is what I'm running, this is my baby, this is my thing, and just surround yourself with just the people that you work with or your vendors. You have to grow and think outside the box. You might be like me, say, for example, say, okay, I'm in real estate and insurance. What what can I get from someone who runs a cleaning business? There is so much that I can learn from that person, as much as there's so much that they can learn from me. So, being in a position as business owners to want to interact and learn from others within your industry and outside of your industry, because that's where growth is going to come from being open to learning from others.
100%. And,
But a
you
quick
know,
question for you, Lee.
go
Where
ahead.
do CEOs actually go for help?
Well, there are forums where CEOs can go for help. There's at the
Mhm.
very high level, there's a group where, multinational banks, et cetera, there's something called the Business Roundtable that
Yeah.
is at the very high level where CEOs go to have those conversations. But I would
Mhm.
think that there are one of the things that we have done for our business so that we're also networking with other small business owners and getting ideas and learning from them is your local BNI chapter. So this
Mhm.
year, well, last year, I probably attended probably 10 or 15 different BNI chapters. And the goal for this year, from a marketing perspective and business development perspective, we joined one chapter, right? Every week you get to have lunch and meet with other business owners. And we had a colleague, his name is Tim, who owns a company that we have used for inspections, pillar to post. And Tim was able to give a presentation, right? So it helps you to work on what your business is. It helps you to work on your elevator pitch per se, right? But
Mhm.
I would close out to say you become the five people who you spend the most time with,
Yeah.
right? So nothing against having a 9 to 5, but people who are employed have a different mindset than people who are entrepreneurs, right? I spent what 20 plus years in corporate, right? And I was not hanging out with people who were entrepreneurs, right? Now that I'm an entrepreneur, I find that I'm spending more and more of my time with entrepreneurs just the same.
Mhm.
So, all of that to say, if you are a small business owner, right, Value Investment Partners, aka VIP, has some solutions and services that might be able to help you see around the curve, right? So you can give us a call at 571 That's our multifamily line, but it does ring to both you and I
Yeah.
so that we can get on a call on Thursday mornings for prior to my BNI meetings. I basically call it my office hours at Rich Top Coffee and Tea, where I'm meeting, opening up my calendar and meeting with other small business owners so that we could have one-on-ones and conversations about how I might be able to bring something to the table that would actually help them and their business, right? But
Mhm.
all of it, that's the free stuff, right? But definitely we do have services that can actually help any small business owner probably either solidify their business plan, right? Because you should be marching towards a business plan. If you don't have a plan, you plan to fail, is the old saying there, right? So there's many different ways and different things that can be done in order to help there.
Yeah.
So let's close out for another wonderful Wednesday, right? And if you are in the Virginia area, go out and play in the snow. It if you aren't, it'll help you to feel like a child all over again, right? And then after you go out play in the snow, shovel the snow. You can come in and have a warm cup of coffee, maybe some cocoa, some hot chocolate with some of the whipped cream on top. Oh, that's good. That might be making you hungry, right? It's going to definitely be delicious. And what we say is have a wonderful day. You control how your day closes out, how it transpires, right? You control all of that, right? There's always an opportunity to see a level of good in everything that you encounter. So, Eunice, I'll give you the last word as we close out.
Well, thanks for joining us, those who are joining online. I know we didn't ask for questions. However, Lee just shared with you our contacts as well. We are pretty much always available. We make the time to interact with other business owners. We make the time to have other people contact us so that we can have conversations that will help us and that will help you as well. So do reach out to us and let's build valuable relationships as business owners so that we can support each other. This is what this platform is really about, us being in a position where we give you or we share with you our what we know, how we have grown, the challenges that we've encountered, how we overcame those challenges, and we want to also learn from you. So some of you here are business owners as well, would love to connect with you, would love for you to come on this very same platform, share a little bit about your own business, your own challenges, your own things that you have overcome to be where you are. Share with the others out there because together that's how we're going to all grow. We want to make sure that we are doing our part in our communities to make sure that we create jobs, that we build better communities. But other than that, see you guys all next week on another wonderful Wednesday.
You touched on and something that we saw yesterday is some
Yeah.
people may feel as though the pie is the pie, right? So to get a piece of the pie, that means somebody else has to not get a piece of the pie. That is a fixed mindset
Hmm.
rather than saying that you can't have a piece of my pie, make a bigger pie.
Exactly.
So the takeaway for this week is make a big, there's enough in this pie for all of us to have it. And if we run into the scenario where there isn't enough pie, right? Let's make a bigger pie.
Make it
So
bigger.
until until we run into each other again next week on another wonderful Wednesday with Business Insights with VIP. Have a good one. Stay safe, stay warm, take care, and we're looking forward to speaking to you again.